Okay, in this video I'm going to go over using expired domains. So obviously expired domains or finding domains from auction sites are very big these days, especially in the past year or two. They've really had a big spike in just the popularity of using them, primarily based off of what Google's done with their big updates in the past couple years. But in the past 10 years that I've been online, there's definitely been a huge spike in just the popularity of finding expired domains or finding domains on auction sites and using those to start your sites rather than registering a fresh domain, starting from scratch and going from there. So, and there is good reason to do it, and that's what I'm going to get into in this video: why you should do it, and what to look for once you've decided to go ahead and look for a domain. What you should look for, because you can very easily get burnt, as they say. It's very easy to get a bad domain and it actually end up hurting you, and you put all this time and money and work into your new site, only for it to be in vain and just to be completely ruined because you put it on a site that was used for spamming or or whatever. So in this video I want to go over what the benefits are and what to look for. So using expired domains, why use them and what to look for. So the benefits, there are a few pretty big benefits. It helps speed up trust and credibility, and that's the big one, and that's especially if you find domains that were auctioned off on auction sites, but also even expired domains do pass a certain amount of authority and trust over to them. Now there's always going to be a certain amount that you're still going to have to build up over time, but having a pre-established site, a site that's already been registered, that already has backlinks out there, that already has some sort of authority, is really going to help you, as long as you take into account the things we're going to get into later on in the video. But it really can help speed up trust and credibility. So that's the primary reason for doing it. It can also get you quick rankings because of the first point, because it's helped speed up the trust and credibility. You already have some established trust and credibility with Google and Bing. It's going to help you to get quicker rankings. And that's not so much obviously with the highly competitive phrases, unless you just hit a gold mine jackpot domain, that just has all kinds of rankings already, which is pretty rare. But even with those that don't, that aren't highly authoritative, just having some authority can get you quick rankings, very quick rankings, if you're targeting long tail phrases. So it can get you quick rankings, and primarily and those rankings are as a result of the trust and credibility that you get from, that are inherent from getting a domain that's already been registered, that already has some credibility. So those are the benefits, and those benefits are good benefits and worth spending, a couple extra dollars. In some cases you can get an expired domain for $8 or $10. So it's well worth the effort to put into this to find it. So what to look for: is it still indexed in Google? And that's a big one. A lot of them are not, but there are a lot out there that are still indexed in Google. And if it's indexed in Google, that tells you that it probably doesn't have any problems with Google. That tells you it's probably not it probably doesn't have penalties, because if Google doesn't like a site, they're usually going to just remove it from their index. Now there are a few other things that they could still have the site indexed, but it may not be ranking as well as it could, depending on a few other things, but we're going to get into those as well here. But still indexed in Google is a big plus. That removes this kind of a filter. Can you find a good site, a good pre-existing expired domain or domain on an auction site that is not indexed in Google, and it still be a good site? Yes. But if you only get those that are still indexed in Google, then you have a very good chance that there's not a major issue with the site. So that's just kind of a preliminary filter item. So is it still indexed in Google? Make sure it is. Second, this is a very, very big one: does it have a good backlink profile? And what a good backlink profile means is not just does it have all kinds of links. As a matter of fact, the number of links is a minor detail to me. I want to make sure the links are good, because you could just have a couple, literally a couple, 2, 3, 4 backlinks that are good, solid, quality backlinks that can really just give you a huge boost. So I'm more concerned with the quality of the backlinks, more so than the number. All right, so are the backlinks coming from various data centers? I've seen so many expired domains and domains up on auction websites that have hundreds or even thousands of backlinks, and you're like, oh great, this is a good domain. And then you look into the backlinks, and you find out that they're all coming from the same Class C, from the same data center. So the backlinks, even if maybe it is a good website that they're coming from, which in most cases it's not, but even if it is, then it's not going to count for all those backlinks. It's not, Google's not going to see those hundreds or thousands of backlinks. They're going to see one, because it's all coming from the same data center, from the same Class C, and probably from the same IP or same IP data range from the same site. So look at the variety of data centers. Where are these links coming from? Because there are people who try to game it, or just use the domain for spam or whatever else, and then let it expire, whatever, and that's what you see hundreds or thousands of backlinks, but it's actually not good. So various data centers, good anchor text. So a good anchor text is anchor text that is not over optimized. Again, that is coming from various data centers, but the actual anchor text, the actual text used to create the backlink, you want to make sure, especially with all the major updates with Google, especially you want to make sure that there aren't primary keywords that are over optimized. So you want to make sure that the keywords, the anchor text, looks natural, that you see a higher percentage of the actual domain URL as anchor text, that you want to see brand names as anchor text, not all keywords. So if you see a bunch of the anchor text as keywords, or it's like 50, 60, 70, 80% of all the backlinks are one keyword, that's not good. Now if you only have 2 or 3 backlinks, that's completely different. If you have a handful of backlinks and 60% of them or 75% of them are one keyword, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I would not reject a domain because of that if it's only a few backlinks, because obviously it's just a few backlinks. If you get one backlink that has a keyword as the anchor text, that's not a red flag that the site is spam. That could be a highly legitimate backlink and coming to a highly legitimate website. So, but if you have hundreds, or even maybe 50 to 100 or more, and it's just a high rate of one keyword or 2 or 3 keywords, and very low rate or any instances of the URL or a brand name, that's cause for concern, and that's a red flag, and you don't want that in your backlink profile of your expired domain or auction domain. Also, take a look at the backlinks and make sure they're not spammy. A lot of times you'll find that the backlink profile contains links from just complete trash websites, and I'm not talking about web directories, etc. Those can be good. It depends. As long as the quality of the site is good. You can get links from web directories and article directories and social bookmarking sites that are only coming from the good sites in those categories. So there are good article directory sites that will help you. There are good link directories, web directory sites that will help you. There are good social bookmarking sites that will help you. So, but there are also spammy, bad ones in each one of those categories. So don't go by just the type of site that is giving the backlink. Go by the quality of the site that is getting the backlink. That's what's important. So just make sure that the backlinks are not spammy, obviously. And then make sure that the backlinks are at least somewhat relevant. The more relevant, the better, obviously, but make sure that, if this is a site about finance, make sure all the backlinks aren't from an adult sites, or just something completely, totally unrelated. Because if they are, then that the previous owner of that domain probably was doing something fishy. It's just not natural to have completely irrelevant backlinks. So take a look at that, and that's very important. All these things for the backlink profile. Also, take a look at the content, the previous content, if you can. Many times you can put the domain into archive.org and take a look at the previous content, the content that the previous owner had on the site. So plug it into archive.org and see if you can find some of that previous content. Sometimes you can even restore it. You have to look into the legality of that depending on the site, but just make sure that the relevance of the content is good. You don't want to put a site up on it. Everything else could pass. Everything else could be great. Great backlink profile, still indexed in Google. Everything's good. but the site was on something totally different than what you want to put on there, and that's not going to be good. So what you put on the site should always be at least closely related. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, long tail keyword that they're targeting, but it should be very closely related to the content that they had on the website. I should say to the niche, not the content. You don't want to, blatantly copy all the content. You want to make sure it's about the same. So relevant content to the niche that you're targeting. And then does it have some authority? PageRank, Google PageRank, Toolbar PageRank is going away. I think they may have actually officially announced that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost positive that Google PageRank, Toolbar PageRank is going away. So that's probably not something long-term in the future to continue to look at, but it still is out there, and most sites out there, especially those that have just expired or that are getting auctioned off, at one point went through at least one of those PR updates. So PR is still a good indicator for now of authority. Not a perfect indicator. You can get an awesome site that has no PageRank, and you can get a site that has very little authority that has PR 3 or 4. But in general, on average, PageRank is a pretty decent indicator still of authority. So you can still go by PR for now. Just make sure it's not fake. Fake PR is you can just do a redirect, a meta refresh for a site and redirect it to a site with PR, and Google will give that site PR, and that's fake PR. Obviously, it's not going to help. There are tools out there that can find out whether it's fake or not, though. So just make sure it's not fake PR, and you can look at the PR. We've been doing it for a while. In the future, you'll want to start moving over to different authority indicators, but for now, PR is still a pretty decent overall average indicator. But make sure it has some kind of authority, whether you're looking at the PageRank or you're looking at some other authority. There are several different indicators out there. Majestic gives a competition analysis, etc., of domain authority. So just make sure it has some kind of authority. It's not just a zero across the board throughout all the different indicators. Make sure it has some authority. And if you take all of those things into account, these are obviously just high-level things to look at. And again, you can get deep into this just like anything else. You can spend days on it, but really when it comes down to it, it's just there's still always going to be a certain level of guessing here. But if you look at these overall things, you can get a pretty good idea of a domain, and you can at least make sure that it's safe, that it's a safe domain. If you go through and look through all these things, it's safe. And then the amount of actual authority, you'll just have to find out once you have used it, got your content up and get it going. But there should definitely be at least some extra authority as compared to a brand new domain that you just freshly registered. There's definitely benefits to it. So highly recommend you do it. Just make sure you run it through these things here. Make sure that it's a good domain. Hope that helps.